well, I want to leave a bit of a legacy behind for my family and kids. But, you know, success to me is spending time with my family. I go to Bali most years. You know, I'm an avid surfer. Kids love surfing. Yeah, success for me would be living in Bali. I tell them I'm moving to Bali in 5 years, Groms. We're going. And they're like, no, you're not going, Dad. What are we going to do with the dog?
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch up with people about it.
Hey guys, before we kick off this episode, I just want to thank our content partners. You guys know it, Abodo, for supporting the Better Builder podcast. Now, I've actually firsthand heard from a lot of builders who love working with Abodo timbers. Over the last 20 years, they've perfected the art of thermally modifying New Zealand radiata. Now, that just means there's no chemicals on there. They pretty much just use steam and heat to modify the timber. So what does that mean? It's great on the tools, it's super light, it's durable and stable, which we know helps deliver a great end result for your clients. Good job, Abodo. Now, let's get this episode rolling. Mitch Fleming, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, cheers for having me.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. I've been grabbing coffee and having a few chats and yarns around it being a bit cold out there. Got a little bit sick and, you know, it's the time of the year, eh?
Yeah, sometimes we just got to push through, you know, it's good.
Yeah.
Busy time of year.
Yeah, as a building business owner, I guess you don't get a lot of time to just, you know, lie in bed and watch Netflix and be sick, right? You got to be on it.
That's it. Yeah, there's almost not enough sort of time in the day at the moment. You know, we need more sun hours, but they're coming.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Summer's coming.
Exactly. So, no, I've been interested to have a bit of a chat to you because we've been yarning on the phone a few times, right? And around, you know, obviously you specialise in the construction, concrete construction rather, side of things, and I'm always fascinated about, you know, getting people on that sort of specialises in that aspect. It's a bit more complicated, in my opinion.
Oh, it's awesome. You know, like anything's achievable with concrete. You know, like just finishes. You know, different textures. That's just something I like. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and you can just forever learn, eh? It's just like a forever kind of like adding to that skill set, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's cool.
I want to go back a little bit. You would have listened to like episode or two. We kind of always like to figure out a little bit where, you know, our guests come from and sort of the background. And it's been quite diverse actually in terms of the people that have come on, in terms of their background. And so, yeah, where did you grow up? Did you're up in Te Aire, the beautiful golf courses, that's where you are now, but did you grow up there as well, or where did you come from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Taranaki till I was still in primary school, and then my parents, they're farmers. So they had a farm in Taranaki. We moved from there we lived on the Kaipara for a little bit. He bought a farm on the Kaipara.
Cool.
So we sort of grew up a bit there and fishing, hunting, sort of, that's just what we've done, like most of our life, you know. So it was cool. It was a bit of a change. And then Dad, what did he do? He decided to buy a farm on the East Coast because there's more fishing days on the East Coast. So then we moved out to Te Aire, and we've been out there most of our life, you know, right on the doorstep of these big golf courses. We didn't know they were golf courses and that, but it's awesome. We had so much fun in there.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it's like a world-class place now, right? Well, people are aware of it now, even they may not have been before. But now with all the construction development going up at Te Aire, it's just amazing, you know, living up there.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better place to live. It's awesome. Everything on our doorstep.
Yeah, 100%. So what sort of farming is your dad? What sort of farm do you have up in Te Aire?
Dairy farms, yeah.
Oh, cool. So that up early, 4 o'clock, 3:30.
He's an early riser, yeah.
And is that how you grew up as well? Were you kind of involved or not really?
Yeah, being kids, we were his relief milkers on the weekend. Like, we just had to do it, earn our sort of, you know, bit of coin for holidays, and it was awesome, you know, riding motorbikes, muddy. Any kid's dream.
Yeah, 100%. I grew up on a farm, and I'm from South Africa. I grew up on a farm there, and it's so much fun. You have like the quad bike and motorbikes, and you're just like, you're just wild. I remember when I was like yeah, I might have been like 9 or 10 or something like that, and like jump in the ute and like drive around, and it's
yeah.
a bit different, eh? I think.
Oh, I look at it now, like I was pretty young and I was driving the tractor, I was driving the ute. I'm like, I think I might have actually still been at primary school doing a few of these things, we sort of, Dad must have trusted us enough that we just got into it, It was good.
Yeah. And so you obviously went to primary school up there. So what were you like in high school? What was or primary school, high school? Who was Mitch back then?
I'd like to say I was a bit of a leader. So Dad sent us down to, my parents, they sent us down to, I went to Sacred Heart in Auckland.
Cool.
Boarding. I think a lot of it was for rugby. And
Nice.
and it was awesome. I loved it. I love Auckland, I did miss that farm life, but it was an awesome change, to come sort of live a bit of city life, play some good footy, met sort of good friends in that, boarding, epic.
Yeah.
I think every sort of boy should have some, just the people you meet in a boarding school is, you have those mates for life.
100%, eh? Like, I was talking to my wife the other day. Like, we've both been to boarding school.
Yeah.
And I went to grammar, Tips House boarding school as well.
Oh,
So was
yeah.
Ollie. I think we were around the same time.
Yeah.
And it is, it's so cool. Like, it has like a bad rap, eh? People are like, oh, your parents must not love you for sending you to boarding school, right?
Yeah.
But like, how cool is it being around your mates like 24/7?
Oh yeah, man, we got up to trouble. I couldn't think of anything better. Like you're living with. Well, I just had instant good mates, and we pretty much stayed right through our schooling. So it was choice.
Yeah. I remember like it's kind of like being at home is like kind of lame, and then at boarding school it's just like mates around, and like it's a lot of fun. I don't know why more people don't do that, but no, it's definitely fun. How would your friends have described you back then? So you reckon they would have said you're a bit of a leader, got up to a bit of mischief, or what?
I don't think I wore too many pairs of shoes. Skateboarding, bare feet.
Yeah,
I was a bit
from
of
Northland.
Yeah, Northland boy. Stubbies, just out there in the cold. No jumpers. It's just they were probably like, oh, he's a bit rough. But yeah, it was pretty driven. Even like through my schooling and that, I was like right into footy. So I was quite competitive with my footy. So yeah, I'd like to think that they'd think of me as a leader.
Awesome. So what position did you play?
I was a flanker, little flanker.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's all good.
Everyone's a bit bigger than me, so I just sort of had to, I don't know, I just tried to think of physics, if these guys are bigger and I'm a bit small, I'm just going to have to play a bit harder. And
Yeah, I know the feeling. I also wasn't one of the bigger ones. But yeah, you got to tackle low and hope you don't get concussed,
yeah, just try and be a bit smarter.
Yeah, 100%. And I see you got the jiu-jitsu ears,
Yeah,
You love a
so
bit of jiu-jitsu as well? When did you
I
start that?
love a bit of jiu-jitsu. That's sort of a recent thing. So I sort of finished playing footy a couple of years ago, probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Young family, I just sort of can't do everything. So sort of wanted to spend a bit more time with family, and I've got a million hobbies that I just love all of them, So I sort of had to give a little bit and put a bit more into other things. So I sort of finished playing footy, and then I've got a couple of good mates. They were into jiu-jitsu, and they're like, come on, man, come train. And the coach, Johnny, so that he's from Hold Down. That's who I train with. He'd been on my case for about 2 years. He was a Worth rep, and he's like, come on, bro, you got to come down. You'll love it. You're a footy player. And I watched a few videos of jiu-jitsu, and these guys are rolling around on the ground, and I'm like, sorry, mate, I just don't know if it's quite my thing, 2 dudes rolling around. I'm like, no, just come down, man. You need it. So a few of the boys, a little group of us just started getting into it. We went for a few trainings. Well, oh yeah, it's quite physical. The wrestling, I like the wrestling side of it. And then instantly I was just hooked. And just, it's probably one of the best things I've got into, because you learn to deal with, I don't know if everyone would call it, but sort of there's stressful times in, jiu-jitsu. You get put under pressure, and you've got to learn how to deal with those situations through breathing and staying calm. And the more I'm doing it now, it's just translates into work and life, and it's good. It's awesome. and good bunch of boys there too. Good
Yeah.
networking, you know, it's good.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I know there's good camaraderie in those gyms, and then also, yeah, just being. It's almost like being put under pressure consistently, losing consistently, being super uncomfortable consistently.
Yeah.
It must translate into business
Yeah,
and life.
definitely. Yep. Now
Yeah.
my whole family does it,
Oh yeah.
so I've got no excuses not to go. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How many years does it take for someone to think about, I'm going to try jiu-jitsu before they walk in? Do you reckon it's at least a year or two?
Oh yeah, it took me a while, and then it took probably 3 or 4 months of just forcing myself to go before it sort of clicked. And at about the 9th month, you're just locked in. Your Instagram feed is just jiu-jitsu. You're watching it on YouTube. It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Once you get locked in like that, it just becomes, it's funny how it works with work, eh? Like busy at work, but you just still got to make time for it, you know?
Yeah.
And the boys, they let you know if you've missed training. Yeah, you might as well hang your gi up, you know, like.
Yeah, that's good, man. Good accountability.
That's great.
So let's talk about how you transition then into building. So you mean to Sacred Heart. Is Sacred Heart private or public?
Nah, public school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like up there in terms of like type of, the caliber of school.
Yeah.
How did you decide to go into building? Obviously your dad's a farmer, so he didn't necessarily want you to necessarily be an accountant or something, right? So he was probably open to you doing other things. And what sort of got you into it?
He was a builder before, like he grew up on a farm, but then went building.
Right, okay.
And I think just from a young age, like that's all I've wanted to do. Dad was a builder. Oh, I want to be a builder. And I've sort of taken that right through my whole life, even primary school into secondary school. I was always set, I'm going to be a builder, So I didn't even look at anything else. I just focused a bit on my schooling and footy, and I was like, I'm going to be a builder. And then I got an opportunity towards the end of my schooling, and I just took it. It's good.
And what was that? What was that opportunity?
I was sixth form, end of sixth form, coming into school holidays. I was working with one of my dad's good mates, Steve Moyer. He sort of gave me a job over summer, and he was such a good role model. He's a surfer, I'm a surfer. We got on quite well. He was a bit of a cruiser, but he worked hard. He didn't quite have sort of enough work to take me on as an apprentice. It was, when was that, 2009, so there wasn't a lot of work around, then. But he put me on to another guy that did a lot of renovations, and he's sort of said that you want to start doing renovations. You have to think in every job, and I did a good amount of time with Richie, so it was Richard Denton. 4 years we did renos, not so many new houses. I think we did one house over 4 years, but just a lot of extensions, decks, and it was good. And he was right. Like you learn, not sometimes you just got to go with, not all houses are plumb and straight. You sort of just got to roll with the eye sometimes and make sure that your finishing's clean,
Yeah, it's definitely for a variety, right?
Yeah.
And especially those old houses, you kind of, it's more like the look. As you walk into the room, does it look right? Not versus, mathematically level or anything, right? It's a bit of a different way of building.
Yeah. So I'm so glad I did it, because later on we worked on a few villas, but having that experience in renos, it was like, well, okay, sweet, we're doing an extension. Part of the house is sinking. You can't just build off it. You need to bring those foundations back as level as you can before you can start. And like I've held on to that for life, like that's how I look at things now. Like you just got to get things back to where you need them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And what sort of, with those first a few guys you started working with, are there any elements that you've sort of taken from them that you kind of implement now in your own business in terms of mentality, approach, the business side maybe?
Yeah, so the first guy I worked with, he was awesome. We just had consistent work. He was a hard man, which I found out later in life, but I didn't know any different. You turn up on time, you work hard, you do your full day, and he taught me. And then later on in life, I worked for a few cruisers, and I'm sort of trying to bring other people up to my speed, and they're, whoa, slow down, like, I'm like, come on, man, we just got to get into it, so.
Yeah, so it's like a different kind of approach. And how do you where are you now in terms of your guys? Are you kind of like a slow and steady guy, or you kind of like you have to constantly crack the whip?
I don't like cracking the whip, but I try and word it a little bit when I'm on. You know, I like to have fun on site.
Yeah.
And I see it as there's times that you can pump it and go for it, and then there's times you got to slow down and refine things, like set out. That's got to be accurate through those stages, getting things straight. But then there's times framing. I've done so much. It's you get good systems, and if your boys have got the same good systems, you can just pump stuff, and then come back and refine. It's
Yeah.
good.
So then where did you go then after that?
So after that, I had just been doing renos, and Richie was like, mate, it's sort of come to that time. You need to start. I was coming towards the end of my apprenticeship. He's like, you need to be doing some new housing. Just work under someone else and learn more. I guess he sort of felt he'd probably taught me everything that he knew, and I needed to learn off other guys, and start bringing in all these new techniques. Because realistically, there's a lot of good builders around, and they've all got little bits to share with you.
Yeah, what a good guy for
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So I jumped on with another builder in Mangawai. He did some nicer houses, not sort of the smaller, not your GJs. He was doing the more sort of $1 million plus.
Custom stuff, yeah.
Yeah, which was cool. I'd never worked with pre-nails, so that was an eye-opener. And it was cool. I loved it. So I did that for a few years, and then I was sort of at a bit of a stage where I sort of wanted to do my own thing. So me and a mate, we jumped on for a housing company. It was a biggish house, and I quickly worked out I didn't want to work for a housing company. From what we'd been doing, it was like a few corners getting cut, and I wasn't about that.
Yeah.
I was more about pushing a quality product.
Yeah. And so you say corners being cut, like it's just because this is volume for them. They just want to get it done sooner rather than later. And if that means you do a few things not quite right, then so be it. Or
There's just a bit of extra material going into bracing, parts going into fascias, whereas that's what I've learnt. You want to get all those clean lines, everything straight. Whereas, that company was more of, it's all good, we'll just put a clip and it's sweet. And I'm like, it'll bow and look a bit. No one's going to get up there and look at it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So,
right, different mentality.
yeah, it was like, get it done. Yeah.
So you got in and out there pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so me and my mate, we then decided, this is when the golf courses were starting to kick off. We seen an ad to go, Lindsay Construction were looking for workers. So my mate Sam, he'd already worked for Lindsay's on a epic house in Point Wales, I think it was. And we sort of made the call. We both applied. We both ended up on different jobs, which was cool. And then that was how do you word it? That was probably one of the best decisions I've made, jumping into that high-end residential. Yeah, just the guys you work with, the level of, quality, it was epic. Yeah.
And so so Lindsay's they have a great reputation, right? They've done a lot of amazing projects, and they're consistently just growing and doing, good output of work. What are the sites like? What's the sort of culture, the team? What's the vibe working for, jumping on those sites?
Yeah, when we jumped in, I was actually a bit lost, to be honest. Like, guys are talking about offsets and grids and setting up, and I'm like, man, look at all these lines, all these like reference heights, and I'm like, what is this? Usually it's just start off, we're going to work off the slab, but slabs are never perfect. But it was awesome. Like they had, so I started off in Tairiti on a cool house, and it was fairly complex, not an overly big build, but the guys running it were super chill and very smart, and everyone was just happy. Everyone's on the same page, but they're still pumping. They're still pumping through the job. It's just there's a lot more detail and how they go forward.
Yeah, and what sort of, give me an idea just of sort of what would be the cost of a build like that, just to give me an idea of what
Might
sort
have been
of.
3 or 4 million, maybe.
Okay. So in that bracket.
Yep. But it was still fairly complex. There's not much cladding involved. It was all glass, and everything's just seamlessly just floats in from the soffits through the joinery. It's like you're not even seeing any joinery. Joinery's rebaited up into the soffit, so it's just soffits coming through, hitting like negative details, and then straight into ceiling linings. It was like, and there's no room for error with that. So it was awesome.
And how did you approach it? Were you just like, okay, I guess I'm here just to learn? Like, what were you? How did you approach?
I remember it was probably like day 2. We were doing footings, and Kyle, who was running the site, I remember him saying, I know this is probably a bit over your head, mate, but just jump in with the boys and just try and learn and just work out their systems. I felt like a toddler learning to walk. It was great.
So here you were not long before then, like we're going out on our own, we're banging out these volume homes, easy peasy, and now all of a sudden you're in another environment where you feel like you don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, my toolkit isn't good enough. Like they just had everything, track saws. I didn't even know what a track saw was. Now I use them every day.
So this is levels to this game.
Yeah. Just an ordinary chippy can't just jump into a high-end build, that's for sure.
So then how long did you work at Lindsay's for?
I must have done 6 or 7 years over maybe 3, might have been 3.5 builds. So every build seemed to be about 2 years.
Yeah.
And they're all different finishes. It was epic, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So success leaves clues, right? Why, in your opinion, is Lindsay so, why are they so successful? What is it about their leadership structure and the way they set their company up that makes them successful versus other companies out there, do you think?
They've just got the right people in the right areas, and they're organised. You don't sort of, when you're just a builder, you don't really realise what's going on behind closed doors. We just turn up, oh yeah, sweet. The site managers set out all our walls with offsets and grids. We just turned up and built, but they're just so organised like that. It's just another lot of learning.
Yeah. And do you deal much with the management there or anything, or is this pretty much just the site foreman? And
mostly just the site foreman. So I worked under Kyle. I was for a while there like his foreman, I guess. In the later couple of years, we had a couple of big complex concrete builds come up. So I sort of worked in hard with him. Not so much with William Lindsay, but I got on well with William Lindsay, yeah.
Cool. And then after that, so then obviously that's when you started getting a little bit more into the concrete stuff.
Yeah.
Starting to figure out how that works and that different way of building, essentially.
Yep. So we finished that first house, and it was awesome. Come up really well. And the next one was a big concrete build, and none of us had done any concrete. And they had Ross Bannon. He was coming in as a consultant and helping with the construction of it. And I was hooked from day one. Something different. I just spent a couple of years learning new things, and now I'm learning something completely different. It was, exciting.
So what is it about concrete that sort of gets you all hot and bothered?
It's a bit of a love-hate relationship, to be honest. It's stressful. Concrete fever. Everyone talks about concrete fever. There's always a bit of yelling going on or something, or there's always problems happening. And I just get a bit excited by all of that. But you've got to be organised. You've got to be confident in what you're doing. And it's also rewarding. Like, there's nothing like stripping the forms and you're pulling the timber off the wall and you're trying to protect it, and it's not always perfect. We've had a few that haven't come up too perfect, but you're working with it's a raw material, and you're doing your best to, give it a high-end sort of finish.
Yeah.
There's nothing like stripping day, and everyone wants to go up and touch the walls.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
awesome, yeah.
It's like similar to like when you pick up a drill, you just want to go zzz, right? It's the same with
exactly.
when you see a, beautiful in situ wall, you just want to like go and touch it straight away. You almost can't help yourself, right?
Yeah, and whatever you're putting on your forms, that is just going to print through. So it's awesome. The knots, the grains, in your board form, even ply finishes. I love ply finishes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, because you always think of concrete as being this sort of rough, and it is, but you think of it, it's this rough thing. If people work with concrete, it's sort of like rough, but it's actually a lot of finesse. It's the opposite almost of what you think when you work with it, right?
And that's one of the reasons why I've sort of trying to specialize in it. Like I'm trying to hopefully bring forward like those high-end finishes I've been learning with carpentry, with timber, to bring those so people can view concrete as a same sort of finish, not concrete as a rough or it's like you say, it is like it's almost like cabinet making in a way.
Yeah.
Like you only get one shot, especially if you want clean lines. You got to think about how to get all those clean lines.
Yeah. And how do you guys, okay, we'll talk a little bit about concrete a bit more. I want to talk about, because I know after that you went to work with Ollie Tuck. We had him on like a couple of weeks ago, which is cool. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
Shout out Ollie. And so after you've worked there, then what you obviously decided at some point, hey, I'm going to go out on my own.
Yeah,
it's a
round
very,
two.
Yeah, round two. Very different approach. The funny part of that, though, right, is like when you went out to work for the volume builders, you probably had a lot more confidence than now, which is now you know more. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything, right? Almost.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was that sort of thinking like, and why are you ready to go out on your own?
Yeah, it was a little bit of, so Sam, again, who we both went to Lindsay's, we bought a little property together, and we sort of, in our minds, we wanted to subdivide it or work on it and maybe buy another property and flip some houses was what the thought was.
Cool.
But then we started doing a few little bits, and then I can't remember exactly how it worked out, but Ollie Tuck needed a bit of a hand on a job in Langs. So I was like, yeah, sweet. I'll go give him a hand in Langs. And instantly I was loving it, back in the grind of working on like a high-end house. And it was exactly the same. He had great guys, great team. Morale was high. We were just pumping through the work. And it literally looked straight over the water. It was a bit hard when the surf was pumping.
Yeah.
But we still made time. He was real about surfs there, boys, go, which was cool. It was right up my alley. And so I sort of jumped on with him, and I was loving it. And again, learning. And then as we're coming towards the end of that job, it was coming into COVID times. So it was a little bit of like, everyone didn't know what they were doing, what was going to happen with work and borders. And so his boys were mostly based in Bream Bay. So there was a border in Mangawai, and I live south, so I was in Auckland.
Right.
And he had a job coming up in Taraiti, and he's like, well, do you want to run this job? I've got no one else down there that is able to do it. I'd never run a big site. Been a bit of a foreman, but I always had someone to bounce questions off. So I got a bit excited, and I was like, well, let's go, man, let's do it. And then he pretty much got the wheels rolling, and we just cracked into it. And yeah, what did it take us? Maybe 18, 19 months. And it was awesome. Yeah.
And what type of project was that one?
It was a mixture of tilt panels. It had a bit of everything. We had tilt panels with a board form, horizontal board form. There was areas of in situ off the bedroom wings because they needed the prints on all sides. So that was cool. It was nice to get back into doing a little bit of concrete. And tilt panels, I hadn't done any tilt panels before, but it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
A lot of cedar, a lot of screening, a lot of nice finishes inside. Like, it was a fairly simple house, but it was big. But it was actually quite an exciting project because it was a draftsman out of Whangarei. It was probably one of his bigger houses, but we had to sort of work, you know, I worked in pretty hard with Ollie throughout the job on detailing it. We sort of had to work out on site how we were going to finish everything nicely.
Right.
Because most draftees, it's a basic plan, you know, with a couple cedar ceilings, you know, maybe screening. So we sort of had to use those and work out how we're going to finish those against joinery, so everything was seamless.
A lot of problem solving.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of drawing on timber blocks, how we're going to do these oak jambs, oak doors, how we're going to finish them, and then it was awesome. It was great, yeah.
It's funny because a lot of times those type of projects, you know, no offense to the drafty or whatever, but like those type of projects, you know, they get finished and then someone writes up a big article about them, or like they get featured somewhere and it's just like architect.
Yeah,
It's like
where's the
builders don't
builder?
even get mentioned. It's like, you pretty much have to solve the problem of any, you know, it's a million problems along the way, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a pet peeve, but yeah. From this, it sounds to me like you would, if people are looking to get into high-end architectural homes, or even mid to high-end, you know, this is kind of like a good path to go, right? Like try get in with these guys, the Lindsays of this world and the Ollie Tucks, and go and get your, you know, wet your beak in those areas and learn, and then off the back of that will come other opportunities, right? Do you think guys out there, from your point of view, try to go out on their own too quickly and try to, you know, like they should maybe slow down and learn a little bit more before they go out?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot more to it than just putting an ad up on Facebook saying qualified builder looking for work, you know, like there's just so much that, well, I've found in the last year, you need to know so much, and business. You got to be, you know, you need to know a bit about business. And
yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you started going out on your own after Ollie's project, and then you mentioned when we had a coffee before, Ollie said to you, hey, come to the office. I'll sort of show you how we do things. And you were like, no, it's okay.
I'll just wing it.
Yeah.
I'll wing it and crack into it.
So what was the transition like then into starting your own business? And that was about a year ago, right? About a year and a half, something like that. So you're kind of fresh, which is kind of good perspective for people looking to go out on their own.
Yeah.
What are some of the mistakes you made? Let's start there, of going in from, okay, we've run the site, all the confidence in the world, the plan came together, beautiful end result. So now you have confidence, you can do it, right? What are some of the mistakes you made transitioning into starting your own company, Tiara Construction, and, you know, how would you do it different if you had to do it again?
Yeah, I'd definitely go have a sit down with Ollie and work out all these things. Like I was sort of doing a little bit on the fly. I'm pretty lucky. My wife was reining me in a bit and doing everything through Xero, and we're just trying to fine tune a few things. But I was just doing the work, sending invoices, hoping to get paid. You know, like no contracts. Like I was just doing smaller stuff, and I was pretty lucky. I got paid by everyone, but there was a few moments where it's like, ooh. And then, you know, that's when I started talking to Ollie, and he's like, bro, you need this in your contract. You need this in your contract. You know, talk with master builders, talk with certified builders, and just, you know, site safe. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. And then I've got a few other good mates, Green Build, Coastal Homes. Like I train with both of them in jiu-jitsu. And so every week we're talking, and they're like, bro, you need to come and do this, you know, put codes to your job so it's easier at Xero. And I was just like, man, I'm trying to work 40, 50 hours a week, and then trying to sit down for maybe an hour with my wife and break all this down. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I already got it sorted. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Thanks, babe.
So you're lucky in the sense that you have your wife that really took an active role. Because, you know, there's a lot of guys going on their own, oh, my wife can do the books, and then, you know, that fizzles out pretty quickly. And then the wife realizes it's like she'd rather not do that. So your wife's like pretty committed and accountable to that.
Yep, she is, definitely. And she's right into refining it and getting better, right down to me. The way I'm pricing, I'd never used Excel before. Like, as soon as I worked out how to use Excel, I'm like, man, this is epic. Spreadsheets, basic templates. But like what we're going through now, like, because I'm doing a lot of concrete work, we're not building the whole house, but I'm trying to refine all those elements right through to when I'm sending quotes through to people. So she's on me about breaking all these costs down so she can more accurately do it in the office. So if someone wants a breakdown on something, I'm like, okay, here it is, not just that's material, that's labour for the whole job.
Yeah. Yes, it's a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially with some of these bigger companies and they got client reps and QSs, they want to know what these costs are. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
you can explain it, obviously, if there's changes or, you know, later on in the project, if it's gone over a touch. Yeah, it's good.
So you currently working on, you're working on some of your own projects and then a lot of consulting and doing small portions of larger projects for other builders, is that right?
Yep, that's it. Yep. Got a couple of consulting projects I'm working on at the moment, one in Wellington, one in Queenstown, which I'm really hoping they go forward. So I'm just trying to bring the knowledge I've learnt and the mistakes I've learnt through concrete to avoid, you know, it happening with other people, because the last thing anyone wants to see is failure.
Yeah.
And I like helping people. It's, you know, I like talking with people. I like learning. So
Seems to
I
be
like
a
to share
culture. Seems to be a culture in the concrete industry of people being probably more open to help one another than sort of more in the generic timber construction. Well, that's just what I found. Just talking to a lot of the people. Why is that?
well, it's pretty expensive, eh? If you have a problem with concrete, you're not pulling jib off the walls. It's concrete saws, and someone's paying for it. So, everyone that I've met that has been dealing, you know, in some form of concrete, they're obviously passionate about it, but they love sharing their knowledge. And I think that's great for like the whole industry. Like, it is learning. And like, I'm happy to share. If someone rang me and they were like, mate, have you got an hour that I'm having a few problems, I'd happily just sit and take time out of my day to help someone. Not necessarily like, you know, they might want to pay for it, but like, I'd happily sit down for an hour and have a yarn and give them a bit of confidence. I'm not sure why that hasn't sort of transferred through so much in building, maybe because there's so much competition. But yeah, it's like even concrete plants, they're technicians, they're in-house, they're happy. They'd love for like myself or Ross or to go into the plant and do a bit of batching and help refine them at their end.
Yeah,
That seems to
be the culture, and it's probably come down from the top because I know Ross is like that, and maybe then it just sort of flows on, and probably the people that taught him were like that, and also there's probably no place to hide, right? There's no fake it till you make it when it comes to concrete necessarily, right? Because
you can't fake it. That's for sure.
Yeah, so you just like you say before, used the analogy feeling like a toddler. There's probably so many elements you just feel like a toddler, and you're like, well, I'm more open to ask for help than maybe a generic builder might be like, I can just figure this out. If it doesn't work out, I can just rip it down and try again, and it's not going to be the end of the world. But with concrete, it could be the end of the world almost.
Oh yeah, yep, that's for sure. There's so, like, it's a fairly simple concept, concrete, but there are, like, concrete will find weak points, and those weak points are very stressful. So going at it, you've got to be confident in how you're constructing, right down to how you lap ply, where you're putting certain bits of timber. Like, you have any relief cuts or anything in your ply, like even small amounts of pressure in concrete, it's crazy what it can do.
Right. Yeah. And do you do your own, like, what do you call it, like formwork, or your own, what's the word? Just slipped my mind now. Molds. Do you build your own molds, or do you guys hire out molds, or how does that work?
Yeah, so my wife has got we've got like a little small hire company. I own all my own formwork, which I bought through Ross.
Cool.
Like, after that first concrete house, I was so into it, and I was quite into talking with Ross and through every element of the job. And he's like, mate, if you're going to get into this, you need to invest in formwork, which he's got a good supplier. And I sort of went down that realm of, all right then, if I'm going to do this, that's, you know, a great way. I don't know how I talked my wife into it, but she's not a huge fan of concrete, but we ended up buying a formwork system, which must have been early 2020, around those times, maybe 2021, as well as working for Ollie Tuck. So yeah, we bought all this formwork, and I was like planning, okay, sweet, I'm going to finish this job, do a really nice job, and then I'm just going to specialise and go hard. Yeah, and then we just started cracking straight into it. But we'll do forms out of timber too, depending on finishes. Like most board form finishes, straight walls. Systems are awesome because, like, for the hire of them, so we hire them out per week. We just do a whatever section of house or that you're working on. It just has a rate per week. But you can set them up fast. You can board form. There's not a huge amount of tie rods that go through them. You just work to how the system goes, and it's strong. But if you're getting into certain finishes, plywood finishes, sometimes they want tie rod patterns. So you can't really do that with a system. So we'll do it out of timber.
Right.
But that's pretty straightforward too.
Cool. So you got your own hire, so people can just contact you and just hire.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I got a bit of everything. I like to own my own gear. It's quite nice that it can, well, my wife hires it to me. Well, I hire it off her, and yeah, it works out well. Yeah, so I've got diggers and concrete saws and a bit of everything. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, when I was talking to Ross as well, he also recommended owning. You know, obviously, you guys have had that conversation. Versus like hiring costs can get quite up there, and you know, there's the depreciation aspect. You know, that could kind of work quite well from the accounting side, and
exactly.
So that's pretty good. So how many guys have you got? What's your sort of crew mix, and what sort of projects have you guys got going on at the moment?
So I've got four guys, four including myself, and then I've got a good mate of mine who's got a crew in Whangarei. We're doing a big fireplace build up there. So we've just finished a big fireplace in Te Aroha recently. So yeah, we seem to have a few fireplaces on at the moment. So my job in Whangarei is working out quite well because my mate Hona, Sargent Builders, he's got some in situ concrete work in the pipeline, possibly on a job. So this is a bit of a learning thing for him, but it's also helping me out with, I've got quite a bit coming up. So I've been able to sort of consult and work with him to sort of bring systems to him, and he's loving it. His boys are loving it.
Yeah, so they become sort of like a pseudo additional crew when required, like a reserve team when required.
Yeah.
And because I was going to be, my next question is like, how do you sort of maintain that quality as your team grows? You know what I mean?
Well, we'll probably just stay small. I've got a couple of good mates that we all worked at Lindsay's and have done a bit of concrete. So at the moment, the building industry is obviously a bit slow for a few people. So I can sort of call on a couple of guys to do some smaller projects for me to help out with the workload. But we're just trying to push quality products, and I want to be involved heavily working. I love it. I'm just so passionate about it. I'm not really an office man or driving job to job. I sort of want to be on site. So we're just going to keep it small. I've got a couple of good guys that are probably not as passionate about it as me, but they like that the brain is stimulated, because you've got to think through every stage, every process. So yeah, we're just small and just trying to slowly build all our knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then is that part of your sort of unique value proposition, to use a big word, out there, like the way it's, you know, what sets you guys apart, that you'll remain small, you'll be involved, people deal with you? Is that part of what sets you apart and makes you different?
Well, I like it. I look at it like if I was wanting to, say if I was a client and I was wanting to hire a builder, there's a good chance they're wanting the main guy on site. you know, because they've gone to him, not his guys, you know. So I like to think that I can sort of be on site leading my team and just pumping through it, and then we leave and it's a epic result, you know, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sort of the because people always want to know, you know, then I get a lot of builders messaging me saying, hey, I want to know the real shit, you know what I mean? Stop asking so many surface level questions, you know, I get a lot of those. So like what sort of, you know, what's been your sort of biggest like mistake you've made since starting your business, do you think? Like what are sort of things that, you know, obviously people can look out for that, but like was there been any big sort of like fuck ups or anything like that?
I haven't. Oh, we had a couple of little ones. I had a couple of little projects I got the boys to do, which was minor, but yeah, it was learning. We built a couple of little outdoor, like I'm starting a little outdoor fireplace company with a mate of mine who's a landscaper.
Cool.
We want to push architectural style, real cool, you know, custom one-off transportable fires.
Awesome.
So
you build it off site and then you deliver?
Yeah, I just built it in my yard. Yeah. We've sent one out, which was a fairly basic one, but it was pretty cool. But it was a bit of a learning curve. I had a couple of the younger boys. I was like, okay, we just built this big fireplace up the road. We're going to bring all those same systems to this little fireplace. And it's only 1350 high, 3 meters or 3.3 wide. Couple of wood storages in the side, big open firebox. And I was like, build it exactly the same as that. I'm just going to give you a little project. And it looked mint. They'd done such a good job. And it was like, I was like, oh man, they've gone overboard with the formwork on the outside. Like, it's not going nowhere. But on pouring it, we're only halfway up, so 600 mil. They put a flitch in one of the plies to make it easier to strip later, but it missed a couple of crucial elements of reinforcing that. It had flitches behind it with a bunch of big screws, but like knee-height concrete, and it just went boof and filled up this cavity like instantly with concrete halfway through the pour. And I didn't know. I was like, whoa, where's this concrete gone? And we found, I was like, oh no, we filled up this whole cavity. And I was like, instantly in my head, I was like, oh, we're all over, we're going to have to do this again. And then it took me, I was sort of looking at it and I wasn't very stressed about it, but I was like, what can we do? What can we do? And the boys were a bit nervous about it, you know, because they'd obviously built it and there's a few sorries, and I was like, we just got to think about it. All right, go get the track saws, go get some ply out of my container. We're just going to cut some ply. We just got to give it a crack. We've got to get some ply in there, plug this hole, get some techies in, whatever. So I said to the pumpy, I was like, mate, we've got a bit of extra concrete. Let's just keep your line pumping, just slowly. So, because it's a 50 MPa concrete, it goes off quick.
Right.
So we had to keep him going so we didn't have any blockage while we fixed this. And it was good. We just all calmly worked through it, got it in, stuffed in some ply, back screwed it, and we were like, man, this is going to be a prick to get out later. And we got through it. We poured it. We got it to the top, and it was a bit of a relief. But after we poured it, trailed it off, you know, collectively, we all came together and had a yarn about it, because it was another learning. Like, it was a bit of like, we can't cut any corners, you know, to the boys, and we just had a chat about it, and it was good. Like, I was lucky it wasn't $100,000 fireplace, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously those next week when we stripped it, I was in there for 2 days with a concrete saw in a tight space and a big breaker breaking out all this concrete. I'll send you some photos later. You'll be like, oh, that's a box. But like that's one like minor really. It's a day or 2 days with a concrete saw and a breaker.
Yeah.
We still got the fireplace out, finished and tracked, and it was epic. Clients were happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny, eh? You mentioned before as well, like the contract, you know, you kind of did the no contract, so now you do the contract side, you know.
Yeah.
How do you sort of manage that risk? You know, because construction is such a risky business, you know what I mean? Any sort of secret sauce you can share around what is included in your contracts that may be a bit different than the usual?
Like our one's pretty basic. Like we just have prices, payment terms, but usually you go through all that with whoever you're working for through email. But what I'm finding now is I can't just rely on an email or a handshake or a chat. Like, we just have to get these out early. We're starting on this date. We need these forms back before we can start. You know, you've got to cover yourself. Like, that would be one of my biggest mistakes, is just going off word of mouth. And like, no one wants to chase money.
Yeah, and what's your
no one wants
process?
to be-
What's your process for payment claims? And if it's a bit late, you mentioned you haven't really had any people late, but do you have a system in place to kind of?
People are getting later, and
Now?
they are dragging out. Yep. So now we're just adding on, 10% incur if it's not paid on the date. You know, because like agreeing on an email, like, that's all good and well, but people just like, I pay all my bills, I pay the boys. You know, no one wants to be stressed about it.
Yeah.
And like, if they're going to battle with it, like, clear communication with me, you know, that's all it needs to be. Hey, mate, we might be a little bit late or whatever. I'll be like, okay, cool. Then it gives me time to get set up. And I think just building in general, communication is probably the main thing in building, you know.
Yeah.
Like, everyone needs to be able to communicate clearly with each other and come up with plans.
100%. And how do you set up your projects? So you mentioned Xero. So do you use like Xero projects? Do you set it
I've
up
got
in there
Xero
properly?
projects. Yep.
So it's not, you don't run like a Ponzi scheme cash flow wise, like, you know, like people, it's just a big bucket of cash and you just take out and hopefully enough comes in later. So everything's associated to each project effectively.
Yeah, we're sort of looking a bit at that, but like, I don't have a huge amount of overheads and that. Like, we're sort of just developing those a bit at the moment, just trying to work out what works and what doesn't work. And like I said earlier, when we're having a coffee, like, I'm talking with a few guys and they're like, man, you need to put 40% aside. You're going to have a massive tax bill next year and all of these little bits. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I should be doing that and putting more. But it's all learning, yeah.
Yeah. So what is the value of finding some mentors and also meeting with other business operators and ideally other construction business operators that sort of a little bit ahead of you in terms of, making your business, giving it a better chance to be successful? Is that important, do you think?
Yeah, yep. There wouldn't be a Tiara Construction without all these guys that I've worked for, your Lindsay Constructions, your Oliver Tucks, your Coastal Homes, your Green Build, even Blockies and that. Like, I got just good mates that have everywhere I just talk to. I'd happily ring up, hey bro, you been fishing? Like, have a yarn. I've got a few business questions for you. And they're all so open about having a yarn. And a lot of them are like, learn from my mistakes. Like, we've had mistakes along the way. It's like, yeah, they're willing to help me. So I like to think that I can, do that with my business as well, concrete, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So for guys looking to transition right now, go out on their own, say they have the confidence, building wise, and they want to take the plunge, like, what would be the sort of top 3 things that you say, hey, have this in place before you sort of jump? Don't just buy buy a Ranger and sign write it and go.
Cash flow, you need a good backing, even if you're a smaller company, which we had a little bit behind us, but yeah, it's never enough. Contracts, I'd sit down with a few people. If you're a builder, everyone seems to point at going through certified builders and master builders.
Just for the contracts?
Yeah, yep. And I talk a bit with them as well. So yeah, you just got to get, dot your I's and cross your T's. You just got to make sure you get all these things. Even like timesheet apps. Like, a lot of people use Smartly. We use, the Xero projects. Like, they are epic. And a lot of them work in, like, I think Smartly works in with Xero too. So just getting all those things and just spend the time with mates that have got companies and, just pick their brains, box a beer here and there. Like, in a tradesman world, a box of beer goes a long way.
Yeah.
Go over, sit down in a coffee.
Yeah.
Like, people love that.
Yeah, 100%. And then technology definitely plays a good role there because people are so scared of technology sometimes. But like you say, Smartly is a good idea. I know there's PaySource, there's a few other ones. You know, bring a bit of technology and you pay like $80 a month or something like that, and then it solves a lot of problems. You know what I mean? It's not
exactly
being open to that. Okay, so give me a bit of an idea then. What is success to you?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I want to leave a bit of a legacy behind for my family and kids. But, you know, success to me is spending time with my family. We do trips. I go to Bali most years. You know, I'm an avid surfer. Kids love surfing. Success for me would be living in Bali. I tell them I'm moving to Bali in 5 years, Groms. We're going. And they're like, no, you're not going, Dad. What are we going to do with the dog? But I would say time with family, you know, spend the time getting organised with work, getting all these systems in place so you can spend more time with your family. And Saturday sport, no one wants to be working on Saturday. You know, I'd rather be, Saturday's my favourite day, watching the kids compete.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate.
Yeah.
And what's your sort of, if you had to give me an idea of your sort of mentality of how you approach life and business and family and friendships and everything, what's sort of your sort of unique approach?
I like to think, I like to work hard, play hard. So living a northern lifestyle, I like to have boys that are fishermen and surfers and hunters. So some days, like we're quite busy all the time at the moment, but if one of the boys is like, I want to go pig hunting this Arvo, is that all good? I'm like, yeah, man, go for it. There's going to be, you know, and possibly the next day he's bringing in meat for the boys and he's got a good yarn. He's showing us photos. So that's, you know, if we're busy and we need to get something over the line, the boys will just get in and go hard. But I like to think if the surf's pumping, man, you got to do it. Like surf might only come for a day or two, you know, fishing. And it's good too. It's nice to get out with the boys and, you know, like everyone's playing golf now.
Yeah, up in Derry.
Yeah. It's just good. You got to live life too. You know, work's always there. If they want to work on the weekend, they can work on the weekend. If they've had a short Friday to play golf, all good.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, that kind of almost goes into the building that team culture, eh? And how do you, what's your approach to like cultivating that culture? Obviously, you want the guys to be doing their hobbies and stuff like that. But do you have any sort of practical things that you've learnt and that you're kind of implementing now in terms of like good leadership?
Yeah, so I don't really have too many toolbox meetings now, but with previous companies, we had toolbox meetings. And we use those meetings as you plan your week. So I like to get all the boys involved. I'll have a way that I think we should do something, and I might draw up some details or talk about what we're going to do, and then I just get the input from everyone, right down to the apprentices. So what that in my eyes means that they're getting involved in the project, and like I'm just one guy. I've got ideas, but then, you know, one of the boys, he's on. You know, he might have another idea, and we bring all our ideas together, and then it just helps with how everyone works. You know, they all sort of get on the same page, and I think working in a smaller crew, that works really well. It's not really going to work with a bigger crew. Yeah, so we just break things down and we come up with a plan, and then we just hit it.
So that collective knowledge, is sort of, you value that.
Yeah. Well, it's just the boys get invested in it, and then they, like, I could be like, mate, we've got a crane day on Thursday. This is Monday. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, crane lift Thursday, pouring Friday. So they get invested, and then they know they've got targets to hit each day. And it's good. It's good for them too. So I'm hoping later in life, if they decide they want to go do concrete or back to building, they're going to take what they've learnt from me on in life and develop them, because I've learned all these systems off, you know, better guys than me. Yeah, it's good.
And how do you sort of stay motivated when things don't, you know, when shit hits the fan and things don't always go to plan, and, you know, there's good weeks and bad weeks and stuff. Like, how do you sort of like, you know, keep motivated and keep going?
There's some things I've learned through jiu-jitsu. You just got to push through. Like, obviously there's some weeks are better than others, but sometimes I'll just be like, come on boys, let's just go for a feed. Go down to the barbecue hut in Mangawai, or go to the pub and get a feed, have a beer, have a coffee, you know, and just refresh, start again, you know. We're quite lucky that we're on so many different projects at the moment that it's almost a bit refreshing going from different jobs. So at the moment we're just pumping, but yeah.
It's a bit harder when you're just on one project for like 2 years. Is it a bit harder to stay motivated and get the boys? Yeah,
but then again, like on some of those projects, you just got to take the boys out and do something, organise things, whether it's fishing or golf days or even just having a barbecue on site. Like, we had a few boil-ups running last year at Ollie Tucks. We had a few Tylers coming in going, is that a boil-up? A little pot over a hot, you know, on a wet day. I was like, it's good. It's all, yeah.
Do you ever struggle with, mental health is a big, it's almost like a bit of a hot topic or whatever. But just in general, like, do you ever sort of have you ever struggled like with, kind of keeping it together and struggling with, keeping positive in that for a season? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I definitely have had times where you get a bit down, but I haven't really had too much to, like, obviously, like we were just saying, you have hard weeks and maybe a month or whatever, but there's always someone I like to look at it like there's always someone that's reliant on you, and sometimes you just got to pick yourself up and sort it out, you know? So that's, like jiu-jitsu, man. That's like, you have bad days and then there's days you don't want to go to jiu-jitsu. I'll go to jiu-jitsu and talk with the boys that have got companies and they're stressed and he hasn't been paid and he's got not enough work, he's got too much work. Like, that's another little spot. Boys chat, we train, we chat. So that helps a bit with it too. But yeah, just the thought of other people are reliant on you. Some people have got mortgages to pay, survive. You just got to push through and make sure that you're pumping.
Yeah, 100%. There's something to it, where, especially with guys, like when you're doing an activity, you're way more open to have a yarn, even if you have a mate or someone that you sort of can see as sort of, they're a bit down, like for like the last 2 weeks or something like that. Like sometimes incorporating a bit of an activity with it. It's not always the best to just have a coffee, face to face and like stare at each other. But for a guy, it's kind of like, okay, let's go hit some balls have a surf or some jiu-jitsu or something like that. Yeah. And then have some yarns in between. It kind of comes out more organically, don't you think?
You see it on site too. You see people, they might have something going on at home, or or just tired, or stress. You see it on site, and even sometimes just changing what they're doing at work to giving them something a little bit nicer to do, or get them involved in their own little project, like a little finishing project, pump them up, and it usually works out pretty well.
Yeah, and so how do you, talk about mental health and sort of success and all that, like, you mentioned your family is, spending time with your family is success to you. And obviously you got to work to make money and to get to that point. But how do you sort of navigate that practically, like between work and family? And are there sort of some like practical things that you've put in place that sort of helps you transition from work to family?
It's tricky at the moment, having to come home and work and school holidays and that, but try and put a little bit of time aside for the kids and that, but do stuff with them. They were painting rocks the other day. I'm trying to price plans. I'm like, oh man, that looks way more fun, It's a juggle. I'm sort of working on it at the moment. I haven't really got set days that I do admin. Someone needs something, I'll just pull the laptop out and get some prices through. But yeah, it's something I'll have to work on more in the future, so you can spend more time doing cool stuff with the kids.
Yeah.
Because they got all the hobbies I love and they're all time consuming hobbies. So
Yeah, 100%. And like, do you think it's good too? Because I mean, your kids are like 9, 11.
9 or 11, yep.
And so they're probably at that age where you probably can communicate with them as well, right? Just explain to them, not that they'll always understand, but you could probably explain to them, oh, Dad's just quickly got to do this for the next, 20 minutes and I'll come hang out with you guys,
Yeah, they're pretty good like that. Yeah. It's quite cool. My daughter will make me breakfast too, so it's epic.
Yeah.
Or lunch. I'll be like, if I have to swing, if I'm on one job at, say, Te Ara Links, I live in between Te Ara Links and Tauridi.
Nice.
I'll just be like, ring my wife, hey, can you just make me something to eat on the way through? And she'll message me back, Alexa's making it. And I'll turn up, I'll probably have like a million, she's got kids messenger.
Yeah.
So she'll be like sending me photos and a million messages about lunch, come get your lunch. And I'll swing through and like, it's epic. It's so cool.
Yeah. Do you think being a dad has helped you be a better business owner?
Definitely. I actually had one guy say to me the other day, he's a builder. He goes, man, our best clients are ones that have got families because, they know what it's like to go give away your lunch or and I think you just learn to sort of chill out a bit and take a few punches, It's good.
Yeah, because there's a lot of young guys that it's like, I want to establish myself first before I, have kids, and I want to have X, Y, Z in place and financially be here before I have kids. But I found I've got a few kids as well, and I think it's just have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it'll make you better.
Yeah, there's no perfect time, eh? Like you say, without kids, it's probably a better time. You got more time to sort of get set up, less risk, Well, it's still risky, but you haven't got the risk of a family that you've got,
Yeah, so you can kind of be a bit more brave in terms of taking on different aspects. Do you think you could be extremely financially successful and have a good family life all at the same time? Or do you think something's always got to give?
Something's always got to give. I'd rather live a, modest sort of, get paid a modest wage and just have time with my family, rather than working 24/7 and having big numbers in your work account,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because,
No, that's good, man. This has been fun.
Yeah,
it's
been awesome.
Yeah, it's been really good. I've got some like rapid fire questions. Time's flown. Are you happy for me to shoot some rapid fire questions at you? Which is always a bit of fun. So yeah, remind me, how big is your team?
4.
What's your crew mix?
We're all sort of younger guys, so I would say that my oldest guy's 35.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Down to 16.
And how old are you?
32.
Oh, cool. How many projects did you complete last year?
One big one and 2 smaller ones.
Cool. What's your turnover range? Under 1 mil, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 plus.
Under 1.
Cool. What's the lowest gross profit margin building company should be aiming for, do you think?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah, that's all good.
Pass.
Free quote or paid quote?
I've been told that I should be paying for quotes, but I'm a free quote guy.
Yeah. Work your way up to that. Yeah. It's always tricky, because it's like you have to really like demonstrate your value aid for them to be able to pay, and then some guys, if it's like a dead certain job, then it doesn't matter if it's a free quote, but if it's it's always kind of tricky to know.
Yeah, and it's quotes are always time consuming. One builder who I've got up in Whangarei, Sergeant Builders, he said to me the best thing he ever did was paid quotes, because if someone's happy to pay a small fee for you to quote their job, like he takes it off if he gets the job, but they're happy to pay for a quote. They want him to do the job usually, rather than just price matching.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also the hardest, someone said to me once as well, the hardest thing to do as a business owner to do is to get someone to pay you $1.
Yeah.
Right? That's the hardest.
Yeah.
You can say everything else, the hardest thing is to get them to pay. So once they pay you that small amount for the quote, that's almost like breaks the damn wall, and then it's much easier to get the rest as well. Project management software or spreadsheets?
I'm working on spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet man.
Oh, you're the new spreadsheet guy
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
eh? Cool. Texting or talking on the phone? Or voice memos?
Yeah. Voice memos. Yeah, they get me going. Talking on the phone.
Yeah, solve it quickly.
Yeah.
No ambiguity. EV or petrol head?
Petrol head.
Nice. Would you rather have a beer with an architect, a subby, or a council member?
It depends if we're having a beer with a drain layer. Subby for sure. I do enjoy having beers with architects and other people, but having a beer with the subbies, yeah, it's usually pretty fun.
Yeah, good yarns.
Yeah.
Classic rock or rap?
I do like a bit of rap. We'll go rap.
Yeah, nice. Jock or hippie?
Jock.
Wine or whiskey?
Ooh. I'm more of a craft beer man, but I
Craft
will drink whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, nice. What do they drink up at Tiari? Is it something fancy?
They got a lot of sawmill.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Which is good. But yeah, I love crafties, different flavors.
Yeah.
Don't drink as many, so it's good.
Yeah, for sure. Makita, DeWalt, or Milwaukee?
Makita.
Nice. Surf or fish?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'd have to probably go surf.
Yeah.
But a good day on the boat with the boys and tin cans is hard to beat.
Yeah. Have you got your own boat or?
I'm pretty lucky. The old man's got two. Not sure why he has two, but
Yeah. The best boat is a boat someone else owns, right?
Yeah, perfect. Especially when it lives in your yard.
Yeah. Renovate or knock down and build new?
Renovate.
Nice. These days, apprentices are A, soft, B, open-minded, or C, hard workers.
Open-minded.
Nice. Are you too mean or too nice to your staff?
I would say I'm too nice, but there's days where I'm driving.
Yeah. What's your most used emoji?
It'd have to be the crying laughter one on the angle.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Because these days, because we use emojis so much, the normal laughing one doesn't do the justice, right?
Yeah,
People
yeah.
don't believe you're really laughing, so you have to do the sideways one to really bring it
it's
home.
so good.
Yeah. Are you an extrovert or introvert?
Extrovert.
Oh, cool. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received, or one of the worst pieces of advice?
Ooh. Just get it done.
Just get it done. All those volume building days.
Yeah.
Favorite business or non-business book? Not sure if you're a reader or
I'm
listening
not much
to.
of a book reader. I do like reading a few of the architecture books. I can't even think of what they're called.
Do you do much audiobooks or a podcast or anything like that?
I've been listening to your podcast. It's good. I used to listen to a bit of Joe Rogan, but I just find most of my work's been 5 minutes from home, so I don't really get that driving time to listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
But they're good. Yeah.
Good stuff. What's your favorite hobby?
Surfing or spearfishing. Surfing.
Nice.
Go surfing.
Nice. Are there good spearfishing spots out where you are?
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got awesome Tiaro Point. It's probably one of my favourite spots. We've got everything. Snapper, kingfish, crayfish. Hen and chicks are right there. The mochahenaus, great barrier.
Nice. Are there any sharks come out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that sketchy sometimes, or is it all
It
good?
is. I've had a couple of close calls, run-ins with sharks locally,
Yeah.
which, I've had one hair-raising day.
Because I don't spearfish, but I have a few mates that do. And I'm always just like freaking blood trails and like, surely it's just sharks come and check it out.
Yeah, I've got float boats. Everything goes in a float boat.
Perfect. You get it out of the water straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're in their territory.
Yeah.
They're cool to watch, man. They're cool. But yeah, you get the odd one that's a little bit inquisitive.
Yeah. The heart
sometimes,
rate goes up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one item you can't live without?
Work-wise or in life?
Just anything. Yeah.
Passport.
Yeah. I love a good
Love
travel.
traveling. Yeah.
Bali. What's a good surf spot for the kids in Bali?
There's a few good waves.
Because you wouldn't take them out at like Uluwatu or anything like that, right?
Well, just around the corner, you've got Padang. There's
yeah.
a little channel that comes out. I think they call it Baby Padang, which just where you got some cool little waves. You just paddle out the channel.
Nice.
I was pushing, the kids were pretty young. I was pushing them into waves there. It was like, might have been up to chest high.
Wow.
And then they just sort of come off. There was a couple of little freakouts, but they loved it.
Nice. So like a soft takeoff or whatever.
Yeah, just on soft tops. They could see the fish. You know, it's like on the edge of a coral reef. That was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Do you think more about the past or about the future?
I think a bit about the past, but the future's always exciting. Things are developing and changing. I like the thought of having to keep up with play. Yeah, future.
That's awesome, man. That was it.
Yeah, sweet.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, good fun. It was awesome
Yeah.
way to start the day.
Yeah. No, thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, just the fact that you're like a, you know, baby, quote unquote, in business, but a very experienced builder, and especially at the concrete space as well. I think this is a combination of value that would have people would have got out of this one. So appreciate you coming on, Mitch, and yeah, we'll catch up again soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.